Welcome to today's episode of Wellness Wednesdays. I am Dr. Katherine Y. Brown, your host. Today, I am excited to have in our virtual studio, Dr. Juanita Wilchie. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Katherine Brown. I'm excited about being here today.
Can you tell our viewers a little about your background? You can go into, your educational background, your community, and your professional because you do a lot of work.
Okay. Well, I attended the University of Tennessee, and then I went on. My background is in counseling and psychology, so that is what I do. Currently, I am also a military battalion commander, and I work with a training battalion, and I have a private practice, and I do some private contract work on the side. So I'm doing a lot of different things, mostly mental health, dealing with children, families, and then also soldiers. So that's a combination.
I'm curious because you said children, families, and soldiers. And people might think about that as three totally different areas. So can you go a little bit more in depth about that?
Okay, so in my private contract, I see children, and I pretty much do like evaluations for like autism, ADHD, different diagnoses, pervasive disorders. And then also do counseling with children and families. And also I see couples. And then on the military side of the house, I'm a battalion commander, and I have a lot of soldiers who I don't evaluate my soldiers, but that's who I'm responsible for as their commander. So that's, one side people are like, you have to be tough, but then again, the therapeutic side of me, I have to have a healthy balance, and I just love it.
I love that you said healthy balance because we're all about wellness. And so I want to actually go into just some lessons learned as we think about COVID-19. So we know that everyone has experienced what people are describing as COVID fatigue at some point. But describe that moment if you've experienced that personally. And then when did you realize that that moment had passed for you, or has it passed?
Well, yes. Basically, when the pandemic first started, you were like, okay, this is going to last a little while, or we're going to get over it. So you kind of like braced yourself like this is going to end. And then as it continued and got worse, then people were like getting even more frustrated. So that's when you start feeling, okay, now I'm really ready for this peak. I'm at this peak, but it still didn't subside. So that's when people start experiencing overload, even to the point where I was still seeing clients virtually, but I had one client to tell me, she said, Dr. Wilchie, I cannot do this flatness anymore. I need to come into the office. We're going to make whatever precautions I need to come. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. And now I see some of my patients are starting to feel it as well. In the military, from the military side of the house, it was a lot of paperwork in terms of soldiers not wanting to be vaccinated. And then that was causing a lot of stress in my battalion. So I was starting to feel that at that point, it was getting to be a little bit much for me personally.
Got you. So tell me about that. What is the process if a soldier does not want to be vaccinated?
Well, they have to file for an exemption, and that exemption doesn't stop with me. As a commander, I can say, oh, I agree, but it goes up so much higher than you start. So, and they make the final determination. But being the commander, and that's why it's so interesting, being the therapist and being the commander, it's almost like I understand, I empathize, but to some degree, there's really nothing I can do but just validate your feelings, try to help you, make the best decision for your career. So that's the best that I could do at that time.
So they still do have the choice. The right is still theirs. They can file for the exemption, and then it can be approved or it could be denied. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
What happens if it is denied?
Well, at that point, I haven't seen anybody's final verdict in my battalion. Most of them have just decided to retire, or they're still waiting. But it depends on where they are. If you can retire, sometimes they retire. if it's best for them.
Got it. And I think and the only reason I ask, because I'm sure some people are watching and they're curious, like, so, what happens, because we've heard about it on the civilian side, right? And it sounds like it's very similar, right? They make the decision and then maybe have to make some life decisions based upon that decision. So thank you for sharing that. What do you think that COVID-19 revealed about vulnerable, at-risk, and underserved communities from your lens?
Well, I think access to quality medical care, from what I can see, here in Memphis, some people just weren't able to get the treatment that they needed. Some services weren't available. And then also, like when kids went back to school, computers, like my husband's a coach, so he was doing the virtual teaching from home. And you could just see how some kids just didn't have what other kids had, as far as technology and things like that. So you could see it was more, I guess, that there's a disparity between certain populations.
So you have a mental health background, and I'm really curious on your thoughts on this. People talk about long COVID in terms of the side effects. Mm-hmm. But what is that like when you think about the long-term effects in terms of mental health as it relates to COVID? And I'm just saying, because you've done telehealth, you've done it where people have said, I don't want to do telehealth anymore. You've looked at all these different angles of it, because we looked at telehealth like, hey, this is a great solution and opportunity to get information to people. But then you are right, to your point. People said, I don't want to do telehealth anymore. So then we had the whole accessibility issue. So give me your thoughts on that. Tell me, lay it all out for me.
So I think the long-term effects of COVID, what you call long COVID, people, their relationships, I think their relationships changed, just not being able to come up to someone and get a hug. We all took hugs for granted, it's like, oh, okay. But then when we couldn't do it anymore, then we started to really appreciate it. I think the bonding has gotten better since we're moving now to a new normal. I think people are appreciating relationships more. A lot of loved ones have been lost. I've had people say, yeah, I'm going to make sure I reach out to this person, because you never know when it'll be the last time you see them. Just appreciating the relationships. Overall, people who were kind of in their shell a little bit, because we laugh, we said COVID is not really sad for everyone. Some people like being alone and they like it, but length of time that they had to do it, people are like now taking risk and coming out more of their shell, because they realize that, hey, I've done this long enough.
Oh, yeah.
So people are wanting to embrace relationships more.
You raise a point, because during the pandemic, people talked about new careers, new opportunities. And then when the workplaces, many reopened, people were saying, I'm not going back into the workplace, because they realized that they were missing out on time with family, their own health and wellness, being in the home environment and working virtually. Many people said that was the first time in years that they were able to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and not have to spend, maybe 2 hours a day in traffic, and even organizational meetings. People start to say, well, I didn't realize that me volunteering for this service organization meant that I got off work at maybe 5, spent an hour going to an organizational meeting, stayed in a meeting 2.5 hours, drove an hour back home, didn't eat. People talked about how COVID actually helped them. And so it's a series of new normals. And so now you have people that are going back into the traditional work environment. They're reporting anxiety, panic attacks, because they feel like they are going back into a place that they didn't know that they needed to be healed from. So I ask you, what does the new wellness look like for people in our community with this series of new normals? And how do we help people who say, I want to help the community, but I don't want to go back into a series of losing 4 hours away from my family to go to a 2-hour meeting and drive an hour each way to get there? Thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to take a serious look at that overall, because you're right. If you look into like restaurants and different places, what do you see a lot of now? We're hiring. I mean, everywhere you go, people are like, we need people to come into the brick and mortar establishments. And you're right. They've gotten used to, I even saw a commercial, or not a commercial, but it was like a little article with a joke. And this guy had his hot plate at his work desk in his office, and he was cooking breakfast while on his computer. And it's like, I'm trying to adjust to this, to coming back to work. So, yeah. So I think mentally, that's a good way of saying some things we have to start like easing back into the office.
Yeah.
You know, maybe be a little bit more flexible. So this is up to the different, supervisors and directors, but you got to find a way to ease people back into the office so that they will want to come, because there are a lot of remote jobs now. And
they're popping up.
They are jumping on those remote jobs. And I think if you can find a way to keep people at home as much as possible, that's a good idea. Because the fear is still there. People are still afraid. I heard one client say, well, what's the next thing that's going to pop out? They're still afraid. They still have, like you said, a lot of anxiety about, still taking their mask off, even though, on the news the other day, they said you don't have to wear masks in hospitals anymore, and then pandemic is declared over. That's stuff that, I still see people who are like, I've experienced the illness of it and I don't want to chance it ever again.
Yeah.
Mentally is going to take them to get that comfort back.
Absolutely. So, all right, I'm switching gears on you yet again. All right, here we go. Because I love talking to you and there's so many questions I have for you. But what are you working on right now that all of our viewers need to know about? So I want to hear what you're doing.
Well, right now, believe it or not, because I'm in a leadership position in the military, I'm working with a lot of military issues, trying to get the soldiers ready to prepare to teach a class for, I guess, in January. So that's what I'm working on. And then professionally with my counseling practice, I'm doing a lot of couples therapy, and then I'm just working with families, basically.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. How can people stay connected with you? Do you have social media handles, website, phone number? Just give us all the information, because what we're going to do is share that information in the chat below so that people can stay connected to you, your work, and how you're serving families and children and soldiers. Okay.
Well, my phone number is area code 901-574-2850. My practice is New Dawn Counseling, which is located here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I am the 8th Battalion Commander, located in Middleton, Tennessee. And also I'm the president of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated in Germantown, Tennessee. So
I love it. I love it. Now, I am not going to let you get off of here without putting on your hat, Madam President. Although I'm not a member, I'm very familiar with your organization. So for our viewers, tell them a little about Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And I will say, I got to meet your president a couple of years ago. I was at a thing, it was for the Black Women's Agenda, and I was a speaker, and she was there. I was a panelist, and she was a joy. So tell them what it is, what are some of your initiatives, and give me that social media information as well, because I want them to be able to connect with you from that lens too.
I love Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated with all of my heart. And if you met Valerie Hollingsworth Baker, that was probably the president you met. She is dynamic. We do a lot. We are a community. We put it like this: March of Dimes, St. Jude, you name it, Zetas are there. We donate a lot. We have food pantries in a local community here in Germantown. And then we have a lot of chapters here also. There's a Memphis chapter, there's a Bartlett chapter, and then our chapter is local. So Zeta, Our colors are royal blue and white. I'm sure you've seen that. We are constitutionally bound. It's a Phi Beta Sigma. So if you see the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, they're our brothers. Zeta, one thing about Zetas, we believe in sisterly love. So if you meet a Zeta, I travel in the military a lot. When I go, I mean, from Tampa, Florida to San Antonio, Texas, if a Sigma or a Zeta, if they recognize or see my car or see anything that I have, they're like, okay, family, we're having a cookout. Come on, you know, or even here, very close. We love each other. And that's why I really love my sorority. And my chapter in Germantown, we're over 100 strong now. These women are awesome. Most of them are military, professional women. And when Zeta calls, they answer.
Oh my goodness.
Your back.
So Mary Bro Wright is the one that I met.
Oh, so yes, Dr. Wright. Yeah, she's in Southern. She's sweet. She's awesome too.
She's a joy. All right. So how can they connect with you specifically as it relates to the sorority? Will you please share that information, social media, and any other handles for our viewers?
Well, the quickest way is to go to Powerful Psi Sigma Zeta on Facebook page, Powerful Psi Sigma Zeta chapter. And you can look and see all of the events and the things that we've donated to and participated in. Like right now, we have our jazz and holiday brunch coming up December 18th. And that is phenomenal. I mean, we have the violinists, Michael Townsend, they all perform. And we have like, yeah. You see,
I done lit up. I'm on my way. I'm driving to you.
We have an awesome silent auction. It's like right before the holidays, like December 18th. And people come and they buy nice gifts at a lower price, but you're still supporting scholarship. So you get something for your money. So it's really a good event to attend.
Oh my goodness. Exciting. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being here. And now once you come on Wellness Wednesdays with me, just know you're officially family and you are always welcome back. And also, if you have events in the community, I just say, let me know. And I will do my part to share the message because I am familiar with you, your work, and all that you're doing. And you are making a difference. And you are someone that our Wellness Wednesdays community needs to know.
Well, thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. And for our viewers around the world, please like this message, share this message with other people so they can meet today's speaker. It takes a community to share information. And by watching today, you are part of our TNCL Wellness Wednesdays community. And for that, I send you a virtual heart and say thank you. So until next time, I am Dr. Katherine Y. Brown, your host, and I look forward to seeing you soon.